Ready, aim, release! Anyone see my mammoth? Hello, we're back again. It's a Monday, and this week I'm joined by Carlo, just over there, as usual.
Hello.
And we've also got Peter here, who is going to talk to us for a little bit about one of his events that he's been at again this weekend. And I'll mention the big thing. There has been some news, hence news. The podcast that we've been talking about, I know I've been talking about it quite a lot on Discords and stuff, as is Carlo. We are going to discuss what it means. Hopefully Carlo's prepared some data. I know that I've looked at some stuff. Brilliant. Carlo hasn't. He never does, right?
I mean, I did. I had a little look, but
Yeah.
there was nothing conclusive. So
Yeah.
Also, I don't like the preference that I don't like the preface that you kind of have a point to prove and then you go looking for the data. That's not how data is used, Mickey. You look at data and then you find out what it tells you.
Exactly.
But Carlo, isn't what you are taught at university all the time? You first check the last page of your book for answers and then try to reach this answer.
Yeah, exactly.
But that, that's a very good point though, because we obviously look at the data to see what the data points out, right? And we'll talk about the data later on and talk about what it means and what it doesn't mean and what it might mean in the future. We don't know. So anyway, first things first, I'll go through it because it should be fairly obvious. I think the first thing you should all note, if you look at the screen above us, you will see that there's this big thing in the corner, and I don't mean Peter's head. I mean the thing that says Patreon. Yeah.
It's also down the bottom of the page. I made it really big because loads of people told me that they had no idea that there was a Patreon or how to find it. So there you go. It's right in your face now. You can't miss it.
I would move the screen up, but it's far too much effort to show it anymore, and I can't scroll down anymore. Anyway, yeah, it's down at the bottom, and it's at the top on the main page. He's also done some cool little things, like that bit that says stats are waiting to come back. He's finally actually fixed that, which...
I kept forgetting that was there. So I had to fill it with something. I couldn't just get rid of it.
I like how you even took something that was like basically minimal effort as well, because this already exists, and you just imported it across. Yeah, good work.
You used to get a pie chart. Remember the pie chart? Did people like the pie chart? I kind of replaced all the pie charts with these bar graphs instead, which they are better because they have like overlays on and stuff like that. But yeah, I prefer the new style graph. But if people really like the old pie chart, I can bring it back.
I liked the pie chart for some stuff. I prefer the bar graphs for a lot of what we look at, because it's way more like observable and generally speaking easier to gauge a 50%, for example, and stuff like that. But the pie charts were interesting, certainly with like overall win rates, I think, personally. Yeah, and as I said, Peter's here, and Doug in chat says, "Is this the same Peter of CMON stream question asking fame?" I mean, yes, if that makes you famous in these parts, asking a question to CMON.
Oh, it does.
Does it?
Oh, it does. Yeah.
Wow.
You gotta have really big balls to say some of the things about CMON that Peter's said and that I've said, and then be willing to go into their chat and talk to them.
That's true. It's true.
More balls than I've got. I feel it's not my place to go and ask questions after some of the things that I've said about them. So you know.
How does it feel, Carlo? I mean, you're used to being the odd one out for many reasons, but today you're the odd one out. You're the only person here who hasn't asked a question of CMON and had it answered.
Yeah, true.
Aren't you? You're probably the only one here who doesn't watch them live anymore as well. Yeah, no, it's we'll break down all of that in a minute, and we'll get onto the nitty gritty of that meat in minutes to come, because we want to go through something quickly with Peter, of course, first, which is Peter was at another event. And this will be a good time to show people the new tournament page, which again is an update. Carlo has been putting in mad work. By mad work, just implementing a load of stuff that he's probably been working on for like forever, but couldn't be bothered. The tournament page now has the option to hide the map. Word of warning, if you hide the map, you can't reopen it with the way that the site's coded, so just hide the map if you don't want to see it, but don't then go, oh, where is that place? If you don't know where the place is for the tournament you're looking up, then you're probably looking at the wrong event. You know.
Lots of people have asked me to sort of like get rid of the map or move it somewhere else, but I just like it, so that's why it stays, guys. It stays because I like the map. I like looking at it and being like, oh shit, someone's running a tournament in Mexico. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, cool.
I like that time we had a random one appear in like Indonesia, and I was like, oh, wicked, that's a thing.
Yeah.
So that's what it's there for. Anyway, we'll hide the map for now. Boom, it's gone.
And then it's on TTS, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Sadness. All of these things are now, of course, showable, so you can look at events where you're admin, where you're a player. Your future tournaments, current tournaments, and previous tournaments, depending on what you're looking for on a given day, a given time, whatever. So we're going to look, obviously, at a previous tournament. It has just finished. And we are looking at, I believe it is the Warsaw ELO Revenge. I believe that's the right one. Which is this one. Hey. And
yeah.
We see in second place, yet again, Peter, this is your third second place in a row, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I think it's about 7th or 8th.
Overall, Jesus Christ.
Predictable, I mean, for me. I don't expect anything else anymore. I mean, unfortunately, like, I guess because of the holiday season, we got a few last-minute dropouts, so it wasn't as big as it could get. But it was enjoyable. We decided to run it 4 games, so because it was like the odd number of players, somebody always get a bye, which sucks. But as an organizer, it sucks a bit less because you have a bit more time to go around, and like people were asking the rules questions, so I wasn't exactly like yawning. And the other 3 games I had fun, especially like the last one against Nightwatch, because it was really close game. At the like I had to come back a little bit, and it was fun. Then I played with Camel first time, was completely outclassed at all parts. I think at both the roster, the terrain positioning, and the gameplay itself. So no wonder how it ended. Maybe with the new rules, it would have ended a turn later, for no apparent reason.
Don't worry.
Other than that, I believe people had fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's the most important thing.
I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, I wasn't the only one. Okay. Yeah. Then I guess we had the interest in for 7 people event. There was quite a wide variety of factions. We had like only Lannisters and Baratheon were double, and I saw people coming up, like for instance Przemek. I played against him before when he played like Lannister and Targaryens, so people were trying some stuff, I guess, that they played less before, which is totally like the point of ELO events. I think 4 games, I mean, it's kind of problematic because ELO kicks in like after like starting with 4 games, and then a lot of people find it challenging to play 4 games in a day. But otherwise, I guess it was it was quite fun, and I didn't see any major issues.
Cool.
Well, Camille
And
the
what is it?
Go on, Carlo.
Which is that that I wasn't sure if you have the saying in Poland, but always the bridesmaid and never the bride is what we would definitely say in the UK as always the perennial second place, almost but not quite. Pierre seems to be your absolute specialty.
Yeah, exactly. Or bad omen or what have you. So the other thing is Camille got to test for the first time. One of the first at the events, the Lenny Sport Guard, and he totally loved them. Mm-hmm. The one game he played with his mountain roster. So I think that would be very interesting because I remember, Carlo, you had no joy or intention on buying them, but if Bloodraven tells you they're good, they're fucking good.
Huh. Oh god. Here he goes again.
I already have them. I didn't win them. I didn't win them at Ribble Rumble, but I came back from Ribble Rumble with them. Let's put it that way. I managed to acquire them while in Liverpool because that's what goes down in Liverpool. In case people don't know, you dodgily acquire things that aren't actually released.
It sounds like the real world, to be honest.
Answering, there was a question from Not Nerb. Did you guys use your mountain list? Did they perform well at all? So I didn't, because for me, the mountain list, it's like the list I use against armies that would not be susceptible to panic. So either Giant's army or Targaryen, and I didn't face either. And Camel did, and he got 4 straight wins. So I guess they did pretty good. And I think he was playing Clash of Kings against Khal Drogo. And when his unit came back, he basically just killed Khal's unit with one attack, if I recall correctly, because you get an incredible amount of firepower for mountain running in Lannister City Watch. And then it's also for Lannisters, let's put it like that, it's one of the best units they could use against dragons potentially.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's true.
There, definitely.
That's true. Yeah. Anyway, of all people, Bloodraven is no slouch to come second to. Mickey knows that I'm always Raven, that I think Bloodraven's one of the best players. At least he's one of the single players out there who's most on my wavelength in terms of list building, which is mostly what I don't get to play most people. So mostly my opinions of how good people are is formed by their opinions on list building. And Camille's, I always agree with Camille's list building ideas. Especially when he turns up to the LGT with 6 4 fellows.
I disagree with what you said.
Go on.
I disagree with what you say because you said that the warrior sons are trash.
Everything's trash to me some days, Pierre. But congratulations to Camille on the win anyway.
Right. Pedaling back.
He's managed to get himself into onto the front page with that tournament. He's got himself up to the top 8 with a nice little tournament win.
Yeah, just creeped in. Yeah, I mean, it's been the top. I mean, this is really annoying now. You've taken off the top seed now. Damn. That's annoying.
No, I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I think.
No, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think you have ever so slightly old information. I believe Jasper won a game, and I think he earned himself 2 points. He got 2 points for a win, and he's now.
He is. Yeah, he's just leapfrogged you.
Yep, he's now 1880. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
close stuff up at the top.
It is. It's massively close, and I'm actually surprised it's not. And I don't mean obviously yourself, Jasper, all the way down to Podwis, which is span of 3 to 4 points, give or take, rounding. But I mean, there is a second tier that's developing, and I don't mean like massively, but myself, Viva Victorian, and Mikkel are within like 20 points of each other, and that changes quite often. Mikkel was obviously up there at one point. It comes down to how much we play, and I find that the more we play, generally speaking, the more we go up or change, especially when we're playing each other a lot. Obviously, me and you, Carlo, we played 2 games on Friday night. I played Chris on Saturday. Bolton's been playing a couple of people in the event. I think he played Mikkel, or Mikkel wants to play him. Like, all of these people are playing each other a lot, which is really good because that is what the site was always intended to do, right? Is to have good players playing other good players from across the world, to see who's actually really, pushing it. I also want to give a bit of a shout out, for what it's worth, to Psycho Stee, who was a long time like middle of the road player in 1.6. Like, I think he got close to like 1600 maybe. But he's been absolutely bashing games out, up at 1726 now with his, playing a lot of Starks as well. It's fantastic to see another British player enter that far up the lists, which we haven't seen for a while. The likes of Kolko, Tom, Winter is Coming have been like circling around that. We see Leet down at just under 1700 there, but it is good to see another British player coming up. I like it. And hey, Peter's in there, 1719. Happy days with his Lannister badge as well. Can't complain. Cannot complain.
Yes, soon I guess. I'm waiting for my little badge inside the badge, Carlo. This will be the least of a Christmas gift I expect from you.
Well, we'll see where Lannister Heroes 3 comes out, shall we? I'm expecting them next week, right?
Yeah.
So
no.
That would be unfortunate.
Right.
So hold on. If they will be leaked next week, then you would change your mind and add them to the stats, so I don't get the badge, right?
Yeah. If it stops you from getting your badge, then definitely, for sure.
Sounds good.
Classic. Carlo has a guest on, and what does he do? Immediately treats them like shit. Brilliant. That was the event, obviously, in Poland. Obviously, congratulations to Bloodraven again. We'll be doing spotlights throughout this week. We did a couple of spotlights last week with the CMON announcement of the live stream. I was going to do a spotlight each day. Obviously, that on Thursday, I didn't see the point. When that was obviously going to be the bigger news story. So we're going to bring back those spotlights, especially given that over the Christmas period, it's unlikely we're going to see as many games. People generally wind down a little bit, like Carlo goes away on holiday a lot of the time. We don't really have our game nights, things like that. People wind down. So I'm going to keep those spotlights going from all the events that have been running, because just like last weekend, this weekend just gone, there was like 5 or 6 different events run. And we will come back to those later on in the episode. But just a big shout out to all the guys. I know there's like the likes of Fabricator Forge. There was a Canadian event on, all those kind of people. Kudos for you guys using the site again. Keep it up, obviously. But more on that later on. Now on with the actual news.
How about that news?
So, hopefully this works first time. As is classic, doesn't. So, hey, that's first time. There were several things announced. Over the course of the live stream.
A very short discussion.
40 minutes. About 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I've color-coded these. I've color-coded these in how we believe they impact, or how I believe, basically.
I was going to say, who's this we?
It's the royal we.
The royal we.
Too. Yeah. So, the first one, and I think what most people would believe is generally a positive change, hence the reason I chose the colour green. It's on the up. I think it's a thumbs up generally speaking. Is commanders not scoring extra VP for controlling objectives in... as far as we're aware, we don't know the exact kind of like limits to this, but we are assuming we mean things like Game of Thrones, Here We Stand, Clash of Kings on the control points, obviously killing units still exists. Dance with Dragons, Feast for Crows, I think that's it off the top of my head. There might be one more.
Maybe.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, we believe all of those game modes, that 1 VP extra for controlling an objective is disappearing. Nobody's saying this is a bad thing, by the way. I think everybody agrees this is probably a change for the better for the game.
I would say the response is overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah. A lot of people...
I can find one negative thing about it, I would say, but this is more like to be a devil's advocate. So the one negative thing is that now on the tournaments, I expect more games will be finishing before they like running out of time.
Yeah, that is a potential,
especially if you have like an hour and a half limitation.
Yeah, I do actually. I actually. I'm not saying I'm playing devil's advocate or that I'm not saying this is like a huge negative. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I do think that it's a positive step. There is a little thing that I'm concerned about though, which is I know that this comes with a balance change, right? I'm not saying, oh no, it's going to break the game currently in its current form. But if you slow the game by one full turn, which is what it effectively does, I mean, in most game modes, people who go out there to control objectives with commanders generally look to score, say, like 4 points, 3 points, and then 3 points to get 10 points. So pretty much all you have to do is control 3 objectives in one of the rounds plus your commander, and then control 2 objectives in 2 other rounds, and you can end the game round 4 without ever killing something. Right? That all shifts to at least a round 5 game when you take away 1 extra point per turn. Other game modes like where you control less objectives, say Dance with Dragons or Feast of Crows, that's actually even significantly slower. But the game, I already feel, taken to its most extreme by Mother of Dragons and Othel, they don't give a flying fuck what the mission is, and they just go out to table you. I do not like that at all in a tactical game. That they currently do not care at all what the mission is and just come out to kill you. And now we're basically saying, oh, and you get a whole extra turn to do that. You can ignore tactics for even more of the game and try and table your opponent. Now, we all hope that the ease with which Othel can table stuff and Mother of Dragons can table stuff will get addressed. But I do have a little undercurrent of being nervous that it just pushes the game towards just like, well, just line up and fight then. Because you can't score objectives fast enough to win by objective play, and you move the game in a less tactical direction. That's what I'm nervous of. I think that the implementation isn't bad at all. Actually, I mean, like, I know it's all just like pure theoretical. I would have preferred if they'd given additional scoring points to commanders for doing other things as well as holding objectives, rather than taking the scoring away from the commander. I'd rather you'd given them something like the Fire and Blood effect, where when the commander kills a unit, they score a VP. Bringing more focus to commanders rather than less, rather than slowing the game, slowing the scoring, making the game less objective based. I'd rather it become more focused around the commander. That's the only thing. I do think that it's a positive change.
Exactly what Carl was saying. Would you rather this or like basically the scoring for killing being +1 for a commander, which is basically a rip directly of the Clash of Kings rule straight across.
Mm-hmm.
I do think now, obviously, the change is good. The change is a good one. I do obviously share the concerns that Carlo has on basically stuff is going to go out there and it's going to try and kill things. Certain lists can just wipe other lists, and now they have longer to do it. A standard, I mean, it's not as well, this is quite important, it's not slowing down the VP scoring by like an extra turn, but sometimes as so far as actually it's 1 extra VP per round. So that's actually now 3 VPs you're behind from where you would normally be. That means that not even an entire round would be enough to cover that scoring. So it moves it from a 4-turn, or a 4-round, I should say, to maybe a 5-round. But actually, like, a lot of the time, unless you're killing something and getting consistent kills while also keeping those objectives fairly comfortably, in which case you deserve to win early because you're probably just winning the game. That 6th round is probably going to happen in most cases. Longer games, as Peter was saying before, longer time needed. Longer time needed means more likely to see less finishes in tournament games, especially more competitive tournament games at the top end, where player skill is very equal and close games happen a lot more. That is going to happen a lot. I think you're going to see a rise of draws. The plus side, actually, on kind of like the flip side, I do think you're going to see the amount of crushing victories maybe come down a bit. You know, they might have finally fixed someone bursting ahead on VPs by so many points that it doesn't matter how your opponent now scores, because they're even at scoring at the same rate, they just win by 5 or more.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Maybe, and that's one criticism that me and Carl have always had, is that there's far too many crushing victories. Maybe that has been fixed. We will see. As for my choice of 2 commanders,
I think the other important part, it will boost. The other interesting thing that it will boost the underperforming commanders, and particularly the aggressive commanders, as we discussed with you, because right now, like for a lot of factions, the lowest ranking commanders are the aggressive one, like the Mountain, Big John Umber, Alistair Thorne, Dario Naharis. Because I mean, right now, for the most of scenarios, your commander unit has to stand on objective. You don't have like another choice, and now you'd rather put there some cheap unit that would just like hold it, and that will free up your commander unit to do some more exciting stuff.
Yes, basically, there's a reason I chose Offal and Great John for this. Offal known. Yes, okay, his cards are very aggressive. We know that from a Night's Watch perspective, but actually they're very defensive cards. And he, as a commander, is a very defensive commander. Great John, obviously, on the flip side, is very lowly ranked, one of the worst commanders in Starks, and is known as being a very, very aggressive commander, has a very aggressive attachment, and has cards that try and increase your damage output. The thing here that I think a lot of people forget, and I will say that it will impact this, I do think that what impacts aggressive commanders more is the fact that it's going to be a 6-round game. They have longer to achieve what they need to achieve, which that definitely will impact aggressive commanders way more, and is 100% a boon. Do I think that commanders not sitting on VPs or objectives makes aggressive commanders better? No. I firmly don't believe that. As Carlo said, we did look at the data, and actually the data, it's hard to draw a conclusion directly from the data that we have.
It's hard because it's quite hard to define what an aggressive commander is.
Yeah,
that's also my main issue, because I define Offal as an aggressive commander. I define MOD
obviously
as an aggressive commander.
Yes.
They are setting out to table people. They're setting out to kill things. So is Great John. So is Gregor. So
Gregor.
Is Andrew Estamont. Yes, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, Stannis, you could argue the same thing.
I don't know. Yeah, like it gets after those really obvious ones. There are some people who are so obviously in aggression, and some people are so obviously into like healing or control or something. And then there is a big gray area in the middle, like a big like maybe they're an aggressive commander, maybe they're not. But well, yeah, and Victorian, as Ilya
Tormund
says,
is the only other one I can think.
Yeah, so. Tormund, Victorian. I guess if you could go with the definition of like has a charge replace as a tactics card, or or an attack replace, or an auto 6 charge. They seem to be like the key things that make you an aggression commander.
I also think it's, and specifically we have to talk about the attachments here. So a lot of the aggressive cards are actually basically usable on any unit. The actual aggressive commanders, in my opinion, are cards out the window for a second. It's the commanders themselves who bring what is effectively, like we've discussed before, a 1 to 2 point value attachment with aggressive ability. And Gregor, for me, really is the pinnacle of this. He literally says, every attack you do, you will cause a panic test and do 2 wounds. I don't give a fuck about the rest. That's what you do. He's an aggressive commander. Tormund, he has overrun. He has vulnerable on the charge, as does Victorian. They're obviously aggressive commanders. That's where Othel, for me, falls into the defensive category when I talk about the attachment. The attachment has a reroll on a shot from a war machine, which is kind of like aggressive, but then hardened, which is quite a defensive ability. So he falls more on the defensive side, as why you'd use him as an attachment. The problem is exactly as Carlo says, it's hard to define what is aggression and what is not, and how lists work. But actually, let's think about this. Is Tormund, is Gregor, are they going to be massively buffed by this change? No? Not really. I don't see it. Gregor's already being used aggressively. Tormund's already being used aggressively when you play Tormund, because the reason you play Tormund is to play him aggressively. You don't play Tormund in objective control matchups, because that's not what he's for. And as a result, they suffer in the matchups they're not good in at the moment. Now, you could argue they'll be better in those matchups, and yeah, okay, they might be, but they should have been being used for that purpose anyway. And the other thing people say is you can use those attachments in frontline units to really buff the damage output. Really? Tormund doesn't increase the damage output of a unit massively. He gives a vulnerable token, which you have ways to give vulnerable tokens out already. So if you're setting up a charge specifically for a one-shot for overrun, you've either got another unit already stuck in and it's already done some damage, or is like a raid leader style setup, or you've already set up tokens so you can one-shot it, or he's not one-shotting and therefore the only thing he did was put out a vulnerable token on the charge and did like 2 extra wounds over him not being there. Gregor, he has a different metric entirely. Obviously, auto wounds, meaning you'll get auto panic tests. That is a very different case. And I think anybody who understands A Song of Ice and Fire would probably pay 2 points for Gregor attachment. If attachments were a thing you'd buy and actually mattered. Like, you'd probably pay 2 points for that, you know? He, I think, will go up in value, because he definitely doesn't want to be set on points. But how many of those commanders are really giving you such a huge benefit like that? And for every commander that's doing that, how many more hardened units are now being used proactively to stop you getting at the objective holding units anyway?
I agree with Carl that the thing that it helps the most is the commander who like has a very specific unit, a good unit that it feels like they're supposed to go in, but that it's a waste of points, right? So you could say like Loris and Rose Knights, right? Because Loris's abilities, they just pair so perfectly with Rose Knights, but there are plenty of game modes where you're like, but I don't want my commander to be fighting over the center objective. I need my commander to like definitely score me 2 points in the back corner. Or worse than that, I need my commander in Feast for Crows to control one objective, but like the battle's going to be nowhere near that objective, but I need that 2 points a turn, otherwise I'm just going to lose the game. So like those commanders currently only kind of get to play in game modes where it's like there's 3 objectives, or Dance with Dragons, or it's Fire and Blood, or those kind of things where you can just be like, well, I can go and be very proactive with my commander. You can name all sorts of other stuff. Anybody who wants to be very specifically in an expensive unit, not in the cheap crap and sitting in the corner, does get quite a big buff, I think, at least in a number of game modes, because you don't need to hide your commander away anymore. And that's why I do think it's good. I do actually think that it's good for the game. I think it's much better for your commander to go out there and be doing stuff. I just wish that you got stuff for being proactive rather than, well, you don't get anything anyway for your commander, so just do whatever you want with him because you got an okay attachment, so go and do something with it.
Yeah, I mean, I still think you're going to see good commanders shine. This doesn't make Mance worse. Mance notoriously defensive commander in some regards, but Mance just gets better because now I have rally point in the middle of my army up front rather than sat behind on an objective somewhere. You didn't have to think around counter strategy too much. Now you do. Every single game you play against Mance, you kind of counter strategy in your face. Sod you, I'm a Lannister player now. Hardened is going to be on a unit in the front line rather than a unit in the back line. Embolden is more likely to be in the front lines, affecting units with +1 morale. All of these things, like the notoriously defensive units and abilities, are now going to be used more often, which is good in some ways. And as I say, that's a positive thing, but it doesn't. Do I think we're going to see a massive shake-up just off that change alone? No. I think increasing the number of turns will have a bigger impact. That's actually simply a bigger change, in my opinion, than
a not too stealth buff to Stag Knights and Battle Hardened, or what?
Battle Endurance.
Battle Endurance. So
which was already a very good card.
Elden and Grey Worm.
Grey Worm.
Yeah. How about you, Peter? Do you see yourself running a different commander in the future? I mean,
but I guess sorry, can you repeat, Carlo?
I was just asking if you saw yourself changing commander, running Jamie maybe, or anybody else kind of comes to mind.
I think I guess with Lannisters it's kind of tricky, as all of their commanders have been were pretty decent. I think they will basically it will narrow the gap. Running Jamie, I'm not sure, frankly, because I don't know. I mean, I can run him for the fun games, but I don't see if I take him for a 2-list on a tournament. I just don't see which niche he will be filling that is not filled by somebody else, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely. I agree very much with the chat.
I mean, he's not he's basically basically let's put it like that.
If you don't know, Peter's on a huge delay here. I was just saying I agree with the chat, which is that Mag is probably the biggest winner of everybody. Mag currently sucks because you can't go around killing stuff and control stuff with your commander at the same time.
Yeah, it's a big buff to Mag. You can now finally stick 2 raiders in the list and go, oh look, some objective holders. Let's go kill some things. I still think
he's bad, but that's...
Yeah. Because activations are still... More on that later. Yeah. I don't see it changing the list. That's the thing.
7 activation free folk list.
The worst. I don't see it changing the rankings. Not significantly. I do think rankings will change. I'm not completely oblivious to the fact that a massive change in the patch. We've obviously got changes to commanders happening as well. We're thinking, maybe, we don't know. So there will be changes. But yeah, positive change. Everyone agrees. But not as kind of directly impactful as people think. It's probably side impactful.
I think probably like what is it? Joffrey will now be the worst commander finally.
Maybe because you can't
I
afford the
hadn't really
Kingsguard to be
thought about him.
aggressive.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about Joffrey. He's so not. I mean, his cards are so bad now. I just don't care.
Yeah. The Kingsguard are too risky to get stuck in. Anyway, moving on. This one, simple change.
Oh yeah, and you totally not getting him to any tournament because like what was it? Sure.
The no passing when engaged. No passing engaged. You can no longer just sit there and not attack or not retreat. You only have two options. It's to attack or retreat. I don't know why this change was made. Like,
no, this is weird.
Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, that's actually the thing. This change is mostly irrelevant.
So, yeah. I think that it happens very, very rarely that somebody passes. The proof will be in the exact wording as to whether or not this has any real ramifications on the game.
It has one.
You know, like already, you have like under the current set of rules, you know, you could just declare the retreat or something like that, and then just be like, actually, I'm not going to. So it really, really, really depends on the exact wording that they come up with. But I do have to ask the question of like, what problem do they think exists and they're trying to solve? The only one that comes to mind is that they believe that defensive abilities are too hard to cost because people are ignoring them. But I don't believe that this is going to stop people from ignoring them.
The thing that gets me here, really gets me, and is kind of very important, is that at high level play, there's a thing called a retreat, which you then do 1 inch. And you back off and go, we're no longer engaged. You can charge me. You usually do this over terrain that takes away charge bonuses. And then you just go, there you go, done. I now control the objective I was sat on. People already do this. Like me and Carlo, when we play, we already position ourselves so we give ourselves the option to retreat off so we can always control objectives. Because we have no idea if the opponent can do like, oh, it's an auto 6 charge, you know, they've got that card in hand. Or whatever. We just play like this already. So it literally doesn't impact us. And then when you do that 1 inch retreat, you can even be a bigger dick about it because you can charge block, which again, experienced players do. You retreat more than 1 inch off, just a little bit more than 1 inch, then you kick the back corner out and go, now if you want to align with me 50%, the front corner of your trade just clips that 50% line and you can't charge me. Which is even better as a defensive move than standing there and not attacking the unit. So, yeah, I don't see what problem this was supposed to fix. And it actually breaks two mechanics in the game. First of all, we have the Karstark Spearmen, who can no longer just activate, do nothing, and retain their 2+. That sucks as a stealth nerf. And Greyjoys, of all people. Greyjoys with What is Dead May Never Die, because they can't activate the unit, do nothing, therefore no action, therefore not take the D3 wounds. Though those two stealth nerfs, I think
Baratheon has a similar one, like the what is it, the Kingsman to the last?
Slightly different, right? Because to the last,
don't they?
That's surviving attacks.
Okay, they don't get the wound.
Yeah. They don't take the auto wounds, but yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree that I like.
Go on, Carlo.
Go on, Peter.
Oh, Peter.
So I mean, first, like, we need to figure out. I don't think it was addressed or not. Whether you can say you retreat and then say, I really don't. I do retreat action and I don't retreat. Because formally, imagine like it could happen if you, for instance, if you're squeezed between like few enemies, like imagine you're like attacked like from the front and from the back, you declare retreat and you roll 1 and you have like a unit with move of 4, for instance, then you legally cannot retreat. So does this imply that when you do the retreat that you may not retreat as a result voluntarily? So that's the question. So if the answer is yes, then the results then it's even just affecting straight, as you said, like Karstark Spearman and the Greyjoy card. Otherwise, I mean, there is some small thing that you can get the charge bonus, then your enemy can get charge bonus if you don't have like the terrain that negates them, and that you then you can potentially like get some card played during the charge, especially if you're facing Starks. But that is so limited. I mean, I don't see this affecting like in a significant way. Even though at the tournament I actually like saw a game where Bloodraven was just passing passing with all units, because he was, you have like this this retaliation card from Baratheon, so I don't want just to risk myself getting some hits if I hit you. I mean, theoretically, it could kind of boost those like counter those retaliation abilities, like particular Counter-Strike. In reality, I mean, it depends a lot on your read to whether retreating 0-inch is legal move.
Yeah, I think that the real proof
if it is, then it's almost non-existent.
Yeah, it really, really, really comes down to what wording they put in, right? Like, I always say, don't really trust or believe in what they say in the live chats. Like, that is what they want to implement. That is what they want to happen. But they have a long track history of saying, oh, this is going to happen, and then they write rules that don't make that happen, and then they even come out on the forums when challenged on it and go, yeah, you're right, that's not actually how it works. And they're just like, no, the rules we wrote, that's they have themselves backed up rules as written, which is, when we write a rule, if it doesn't have the impact that we meant it to have, it still is written that way. We're not going to FAQ it or change it, right?
Taunt.
So
Taunt, absolute classic.
Taunt with cavalry.
Taunt
Cavalry
will work on cavalry.
They went out there. Yeah, exactly.
FAQ
Perfect example.
comes out,
They went out
Taunt
there
doesn't
and
work on
said, they said Taunt will work on cavalry, and then someone pointed out, after they'd written all the rules, this still doesn't work on cavalry, and they were like, yeah, you're right, it doesn't work on cavalry.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, this is equally.
I think it was like with those Visions in Flames. I mean, with Visions in Flames, I think none of those prophecies came true exactly.
Yeah.
So I just say, like, they say that you can't end up in combat, or like they made some kind of comment around that you must retreat, that you must do something. But until I see the wording of it, I'm like, okay, because I think that is going to be one of the. It's either not going to work, or it's going to be a huge change to the game. If they rewrite the retreat rules, that's a very different rule to saying you can't pass in combat anymore. A change to retreat is something that most people what most people propose is some kind of limit to the control that you have in how far you retreat. And I hate that concept. I think that it's bad, because taking control away from players for what seems to be such a random, odd reason nobody cares about people passing in combat. I don't know why they think this is an issue that has to be addressed, why they think it's a problem, what they have wrong with it, other than they basically say, we find it hard to cost defensive abilities because people are ignoring defensive abilities, right? Well, I'm sorry, just cost defensive abilities better. Like, that's not the problem here. The rule set, the core rule set, isn't the issue. Cost your defensive abilities better or make them better. The problem is that what they actually do is they make defensive abilities that are so powerful that people are just like, well, I won't attack then. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not just like, oh, that's a good defensive ability. It's just like, that's worthless for me to even try because I take as much damage as I give. Or you have hardened and it's like, I just do no damage. The only defensive ability that I actually kind of like is resilient, right? An order to half your damage one time per round. That is where a defensive ability should exist.
To be honest, I don't massively dislike Horrific Visage. As a simple, like, here's a bit of a modified panic check with maybe an extra wound if I've got something engaged with +1, -1, like, that doesn't bother me too much as a base defensive ability. The problem exists is not that ability on its own, but again, costed appropriately with the fact that there's double down on the damage. And it's like, oh, you attack me, you take a panic test, and here's another -3/+3 on top of that. Or here's another or you failed that test, now something else has to take a panic test over there that's nothing to do with this attack. Those abilities are what make attacking into Horrific Visage not worth it. If it's just Horrific Visage, like, if you run just, say, I don't know, Follows a Bone. No, Follows a Bone is a bad example, actually, because they're in Free Folk. If you run... it's really hard to think of something. Bolton Blackguard in Greyjoy. It just... Bolton Blackguard in Greyjoy with a unit that's designed to bust open armor. I go, alright, okay, I'll take a -3 panic test. Whoop-de-fucking-do. I take 1 to 3 wounds, maybe. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Right, can I kill you now? Whereas, you know, you put that in Lannister and it's like, oh, maybe it's an extra -1, and oh, maybe there's this extra thing involved, and double down on it. It's just too much. And Counter-Strike, generally speaking, I don't think anyone gives a shit about Counter-Strike until you're engaged.
And Disrupt.
And Disrupt. Well, yeah, Disrupt is a problem. But yes, I don't know. I don't see it. I just don't know why they made the change. And as you say, the wording matters so much to whether or not this will actually impact the game or not. But yeah, it just seems like unnecessary. People didn't do it at a casual level, I didn't think. People don't do it that often at a competitive level where other options aren't available. And like Peter was saying, a lot of players don't do it already. Certainly in the top level, people already do retreat blocking. Like, it's an actual thing to go, right, I'm going to position here so I know you now can't retreat laterally or directly in reverse, meaning the only way you can go is that way, which in turn would be a bad thing for you. People already do that at the top level, and it's going to keep happening, and now that player is just more fucked if that's what's going to happen. I don't see it.
I don't like it. I'm nervous about it.
Yes. Belisarius saying it buffs giants. Yeah, I guess. But again, just like go 1 inch over and then retreat off and go, haha, there you go, done. Maybe it buffs those kind of things. I'll wait to see how it plays out. Obviously, it depends on how it goes. The next one, and by far what I think is... I think this is just a stupid change. And I know why they've done it, but this one I'm nervous about. This next one I just think is stupid. Personally. It is... If it loads. There we go. NCUs must have an open tactics port zone in order to activate. Pending wording. Completely. This is just...
Green. For real.
in green because people think it's good, right? I was going to do it in red originally. It clashed too much with Cersei's dress and Mance's cape, and I turned it to green. This was red though when I originally made it.
Oh, I thought color coding is how much it affects.
Oh god, it will affect the game a lot. Jesus. In some ways, but not in the way you expect at all.
Frankly, like the whole history of CMON addressing like the 3NCU meta reminds me like of let's put it like that, a well-known Russian joke about supply and demand.
Yeah.
So it goes like that, about elasticity of supply and demand. Son asks his father, "Hey, daddy, like vodka costs more now, so will you drink less? No, you will eat less."
Yeah.
And this is exactly what's been happening, like with NCUs when you cannot get NCU commanders and there is no 3-point NCUs. So what? Everybody will take less NCUs? No, they will take less combat units and still 3 NCUs.
I mean,
and I think here there is like no reason not to take 3 NCUs, because if you take 2 and the other guy takes 3, he's still like it changes absolutely nothing. If you both take 3, it hurts you both same way. So
yes.
Yeah.
Carlo, go on.
Oh, go on. All right. So first of all, comes down to the wording, as always.
Yes.
Here's the big ramification, which I'm nervous of. Again, they're trying to fix something that doesn't need to be fixed. It has no issues at the moment, and they're trying to force a certain thing on the community, I believe, not thinking through all the negative ramifications that it could have. Either there's no changes other than this one rule that they stated, which is last NCU, 6th onwards NCUs, when there are only 5 zones of the board, goes to activate and just can't, right? Can't activate, can't pass, can't have a go. Or this has no effect, or very, very little effect, if you still allow me to pass my activation when I activate an NCU and there are open zones on the board, right? Because in a 3 NCU versus 3 NCU matchup, you activate your first, I activate my first, you activate your second, there's still 2 zones of the board left, I activate my second, and then I pass. You either do or don't take the 4th zone, I take the 5th zone, we still both got to activate 3 times. I still got 2 zones of the board, you still got 3 of them, because that's what was always going to happen when you were first onto the board. But if you remove that ability to pass, it has humongous balance ramifications upon the game.
Huge.
There are currently tactics cards and NCUs and abilities that have huge negative effects that can be played onto certain zones of the board. I'm talking about what's Mance's
Wildling Diplomacy.
What's Mance's called again? Yeah. Wildling Diplomacy, right? If you say I'm activating this NCU and you play Wildling Diplomacy, you're just going to go, oh, and you can't not take a zone now, so you're going to take D3 plus 1 wounds to a unit. That's going to kill solos. Guaranteed, flat out, your solos are dead.
Yeah,
the counter to that
I would go as far as saying, right? I would go as far as saying, if this is the change that happens and that is the wording they go for, you can no longer pass with an NCU. Solos are eliminated from competitive play. Low wound solos disappear from competitive play. I'm actually saying that right now. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, like,
what exactly? I just didn't follow. So you activate an NCU. There are like zones left, and you just don't take it. So what?
You're not allowed to not take it. That's the rule we're suggesting that they might implement. And if they do that, Wildling Diplomacy will kill anything of 2 wounds,
okay.
or anything from 2 to 4 wounds. Wildling Diplomacy just kills. Which, by the way, I love it. I absolutely love that Wildling Diplomacy is a great card. It does not need a buff.
Yeah. Also, throw Courtney in there, and
I mean, if it's in the
Yep.
I kind of disagree, because that makes the test I don't think I don't read the rules this way. I read it more like what's written on the screen right now. That you must have an open tactics board zone, but you shouldn't be obliged to take it. Otherwise, certain card wording doesn't make sense, because like on Wildling Diplomacy, or what is it? The Lannister card, Intrigue and Subterfuge. The wording is like that it triggers when the NCU activates, and then the condition is if the NCU takes a zone, then blah blah blah. And you're basically making this condition completely obsolete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
I do agree. But what we're postulating is that if you don't remove an NCU's ability to pass, then you have no impact, or effectively no impact, upon a 3 NCU versus 3 NCU matchup, because I can still activate all 6 NCUs, because as long as the person understands the matchup and passes with the middle one, which is actually something that I already do sometimes when I'm trying to delay a zone. Like I know that my opponent will get 3 zones of the board anyway, and I'm actually going to pass. I'm going to activate my less powerful NCU second. Maybe they'll play some kind of card which is like, hey, if you take a zone, then do this, and I'm like, great. I was going to pass anyway, because of what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to delay my actual NCU, which might be like a swap, a zone replacement effect.
Yep.
Could be like Iliomapatis, right? Who's like, oh, I'm going to heal. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to wait one more turn before I heal, because just in case there's more damage somewhere on the board that I can heal. I just think that I cannot possibly see them, or, I'm so terrified that they'll make the huge, just straight fuck up of not allowing NCUs to pass anymore. But if you don't create that rule, what you've just created is worthless. Why are we making it? Why are you doing it? What is it about? And honestly, I accept that there is a certain amount of like echo chamber involved in the certain discords and stuff like that. But what I think is really, really telling about this discussion, right, is that as soon as it got announced, and a lot of the discussion that's been had since in online discussions between people who are the biggest, most active players, the best players of this game, they're not discussing, oh, what impact does this have on the game, or why is this ruling coming about, or anything like that. Their instant thought is like, honestly, people are just like, why are CMON still trying to stop us playing 3 NCUs? That is actually everybody's reaction. Like, and that's not a good discussion. They're not asking like, why have you put in this rule, or what effect does this have on the game, or what's the point even. They're literally, the first thing everybody jumped to was like, why are you still trying to kill the 3 NCU meta? Like, why are you trying to force that on the players? If you create a rule set where the best thing people can do is play 3 NCUs, stop trying to change the rules of the game to like affect that. Change the balance, and then people won't do it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, the annoying thing is, as Carlo points out, depending on how they word it, this can go one of 2 ways. And do I think builds will change at all? No. I don't think builds will change one iota. Some people will think, I'll run 2 NCUs. And you know what? Those 2 NCU lists that weren't good at the moment, assuming no other changes, those two NCU lists that were struggling at the moment run into the same 3 NCU lists they ran into before and get fucked, just like they do at the moment. Because they lose all control of the tactics board and it's a 2 versus 3 NCU matchup, and they just get sad, just like they do at the moment. And nothing changes. Or both people play 2 NCUs, in which case it's a 2 NCU versus 2 NCU game. You both fell for the trap. Well done. That already exists. Or it's a 3 versus 3 NCU game, and all you do is the person going second on a given round just plays it a little bit differently and loses out potentially on their choice of second zone. Oh well, you kinda did anyway, because you didn't get much choice to start with. Because who wants to take crowns when it doesn't fucking matter, and usually swords when it's irrelevant? You know? It's... yeah.
I mean, there are comments, they didn't intend 3NCU to be a thing, but then the problem is, like, a lot of factions are relying on the 2-zone control, and they're making more units that are relying on zone control, like they're making red cloaks. How are you supposed to play them without, like, 3 NCUs or without Joffrey, when you have to control 2 zones to make them effective? And that just, like, I mean, that carries on the new decks, like the Greyjoy deck, basically, like, most of the decks they're they're relying, like, on a particular zone control, or to, like, the new neutral units, like the Hedge Knights rely on 2 zone control for the most effect, and those 2 zones, no faction actually wants those 2 zones. So you need, like, a 3rd NCU to make your your faction's zone effective and the Hedge Knights effective. So
my biggest concern, and kind of like one thing that people say, oh, you could just put a hard limit. If they didn't want a 3 NCU meta, they could just put a hard limit on NCUs, which is true. They could do that. My thing with it is, why does it matter?
Yeah, like, that's what I don't get. Like, why?
Why does it matter how many NCUs I play or not? Like, surely it's not important. Like, if running 2 is the most effective thing, then everyone will run 2. If running 3 is the most effective thing, people will run 3 eventually. If the most effective thing for points costs, because NCUs are shit and the tactics board is shit and you don't get good value for money, guess what? Most people will run 0 NCU. Like, it's settled on 3 because it's 3 that is the most effective. It's as simple as that. If you don't want to make 3 effective, change the balance, as Carlo said, to make 3 not the most effective. And you know who... The worst bit is, let's all assume that we go to a 2 NCU meta. Let's all play the game and all play 2 NCUs. The Night's Watch care, no. One of the most strongest builds out there at the moment is a 2 NCU Night's Watch list. So NCUs, Night's Watch, don't give a fuck. The Lannisters care, maybe it's a bit annoying they can't control as many zones, but who gives a fuck? I'll just have a unit of Poor Fellows instead. To Targaryen...
I forgot Joffrey.
Yeah, 100% run Joffrey.
Yeah. Do Targaryens care? Actually, no, because a couple of Targaryen builds run 2 NCUs already, and who gives a fuck? I'll take away a 4-point NCU and take a 3-point unit of Freedmen instead, and hey, then upgrade one of my units with a 1-point attachment, or now upgrade it from a 6 to a 7 or a 7 to an 8. Who gives a flying fuck? Do free folk give a fuck? Of course I don't. I just take another fucking unit of Raiders or Trappers. Do Greyjoys give a fuck? Of course I don't. I just take another unit of Trappers or Bowmen. Do Baratheons give a fuck? Holy shit, yes we do.
Oh yeah.
Fuck. It's
because they're
neutrals
they're
give a fuck.
The only good thing.
Oh yeah.
Neutrals aren't a faction, Peter. No one cares. But yeah, this is the thing. Like the two factions which are notoriously the worst really care. Starks might be about the only faction who might squeeze through, because they might not have included Rickon and Shaggy Dock in the list, meaning that they can take a 4-point package for a wolf and an attachment. Just recant that a little bit. Nearly every single good Stark list probably runs Shaggy Dog because he's points effective.
I mean, frankly, like the question is, like, what is exactly the problem there? they're trying to address. Making two NCU viable, yeah, then you need. The problem is, I guess, then the balance needs to be changed quite drastically to make two NCU viable, or you need to start introducing like army composition kind of restrictions, like let's say a third NCU costs you 1 more point, which would feel unnatural and break the simplicity they were trying to achieve. If they are trying to solve this, this problem that you need like to run eight activation list, there is an easier way to address it. Frankly, like you can just say that use this like War of the Ring rule, that if you have less activation than your opponent, you can pass and let him have another turn. That would solve the activation problem very easily and with like least amount of ripples on the water.
I do think that passing, so activations are equal, has actually a weird impact in the game. We saw one of the tournaments run it in 1.6. They did an activation control test, and their takeaway was it didn't really change the game at all. And it doesn't fix the core issue, which is still the double activation at the end of a round and at the start of the next one, which is what everyone actually plays for in these activation advantage style stuff. It doesn't mean passing would be bad, but obviously you'd start to get very kind of crisp numbers and be like, hang on, I can run a very, very effective like behemoth list that runs maybe 4 units or 3 units and a couple of NCUs with a lot of points in those units, and then a bunch of pass tokens depending on who I play against, and then look to eliminate units one at a time. And I do think, okay, Night's Watch probably don't do it because maybe they can, maybe they don't want to, I don't know. Targaryens can do this. Targaryens can have units that reach out and obliterate units in one turn, and if they're allowed to do that in a 4-3 style list and get pass tokens, they do this thing called winning the game nearly every game they play, because they reach out and destroy your unit, and then they back off and they go, okay, I'm now on the same number of activations as you still, I'll do it again next turn. Then 4 turns later, you've got nothing left in your army, and they're up on activation. So yeah, it has to be so carefully done because the balance was never designed to be played like that.
To answer Soren, in 3 NCU versus 3 NCU, the board does nearly always just fill up straight away, right? Like normally the first 5 or even 6 activations of a given round are taking 5 zones of the board and then passing, because most strategies and most distancing, you're waiting for your opponent to make the move and then you counter it. There are times where that's not necessarily true. There are times where you're engaged. There are times where a charge is really, really important and you can't, and it's very important that you take that charge on. And luckily the tactics board doesn't have a charge on it. But I would actually say that even in a 2 NCU versus 2 NCU game, like still the first 4 activations of most rounds will be to take 4 zones of the board. Like it's just the way they have set the board up. Not all zones are made equal. So whoever gets to the board first gets the better zones and gets the better effects. Plus, everything like setting up tactics cards, setting up heals and removing tokens, putting out tokens, they're all things that, generally speaking, you want to get as soon as possible in the round and then use them throughout the round. Now, they can exist round to round, but particularly tactics cards, you would like to draw your tactics cards and have them from as early on in the round as possible, and then play them throughout the round, end up with no hand, draw a new hand next round, right? That would be the ideal situation. Going back to what Jesse's saying, I just disagree that, like, you know, and maybe I'm right, maybe, you know, maybe I'm wrong, and it is just an echo chamber effect, but I believe that everybody is pretty confident from the way they implement new rules and the way they're going about discussing NCUs and their impact on the game, that they are not pro the way NCUs are played in competitive play, like just on absolute regularity. They all but went to the closest possible margin that they could with alt list building to say we've banned 3 NCUs in this format. They constantly, every rule change, look to limit NCU performance and a high NCU count in lists. And I do not. I just think that they're not willing to say we're trying to control the way you play the game, but they're trying to control the way that people play the game. That's my opinion, and I believe that it's the opinion of the majority of people that are active online.
What I think what a lot of players actually have liked, and Larks is a good example of this from a good player who even did it. Peter in chat as well. Peter Keeley, isn't it? Corin, as he goes by on the Discords, actually likes to talk about this as well. Larks ran a 4 NCU list for the effects the NCUs brought and the activations they could provide, even though he couldn't use them all. Corin, Peter, he used to take a 6 NCU Night's Watch list for the replacement effect, for be able to take Corin and to be able to just delay certain things so he could then do effective things on the board with a few units. I think he had 3 units on the board, which he then delayed to do things with them. And, okay, most of his units didn't do anything, or most of his NCUs didn't do anything, but it was still a strategy he wanted to employ because he wanted the abilities on the NCUs more than he wanted, say, a unit of conscripts or something. The problem is there, not NCUs. Like, the problem's nothing to do with NCUs in those scenarios. It's game. You know, he wants to try that tactic. He should be allowed to do that. And it should have an element of, like, does it work to it? If he was winning games regularly, he would win games regularly, and he would be pushing that list, and everyone would be playing 6 NCUs. Point is, it wasn't the best strategy, so it didn't work every time, and it didn't become common. Same with Larks. Larks ran a 4 NCU list. It kind of worked. It didn't get what he wanted out of it, so he went, nah, back to the 3. So, like, I don't know. I just don't get why they think this is necessary. And getting to the final point of all of this, there is reasons to suggest, and I haven't got a slide for this because I didn't even know how to even process this at the time. There are reasons to suggest that these are tournament-only changes. Which... Why? I don't mean just this one, by the way. It's all of the changes we've talked about are tournament-only. But some of them are like core rule changes as well.
Mickey, I had a different reading. I think they on that. I think what they wanted to say is that those changes will affect only like super competitive play or like higher kind of higher skilled players. Because for most of the average players or casual players, they wouldn't really feel the difference that much. I think that was the point they were driving. Not like that for tournament play you use these rules, and for non-tournament games you use other rules.
Which is hilarious because I think from a competitive player standpoint that I have, these rules barely affect me unless this NCU one is you cannot pass ever, in which case that's crippling, and it will cripple competitive casual play as well. Genuinely believe that. None of these changes bother me at all as a competitive player, except this one if it's worded badly. That's the funny thing. So.
The whole tournament versus not tournament brings up a question that like Sunday Slaughter asked before, which is like, how does it affect those who aren't running 2-list format? Well, honestly, I really don't know or care. But that is like, I actually find it mind-boggling that people don't play 2-list format, because it's the best part of this game.
And
like
it's in
significantly the best part.
It's in the core rules, by the way. It's not in like tournament package. You should pick 2 lists and pick.
Yeah.
It literally says, make 2 lists. Go play.
Oh,
a game.
it's in core.
Yeah. That's why me and Carlo have literally never played 1 list format in the entirety of playing A Song of Ice and Fire. Even our very first game had a 2 list format game. Like
yeah, I don't understand why people don't. Yeah, I don't understand why people don't 2-list format. If there's a set of tournament rules and non-tournament rules, I don't understand why you wouldn't be using the tournament rules, because it's an interesting analogy that, like, there are some things that CMON just do not give any preference to one side or the other. Random terrain or player selected terrain. And there you get game clubs and tournaments that fall on one side or the other. And when I play it the other way, I'm like, holy shit, this is weird, right? And that just tells you that if there were going to be tournament rules and non-tournament rules, I would never, ever, ever play the non-tournament rules, because when you came to play a tournament, it would feel bad and weird and alien. So why would I ever not practice that way continuously?
Yeah, I mean, Leo says like they're worried that people would angry because they're changing the core rules of the game. That is true. Some people will find it. I mean, people already found it hard that cards got changed once. Never mind more than once. That's just a simple fact of playing a miniatures game, like what it requires to upkeep. It's like saying that D&D first and D&D 1.4 and when D&D 1.5, like they've got to go and be a thing, otherwise the game just dies eventually. But I do agree that some people will get angry, and yes, hardcore competitive. Yeah, but there's a weird thing, right? Really weird thing, because I would obviously call myself competitive, as in I play the game to win it. I play the game because I enjoy it, first of all, but I play in any given game to try and win. I play in events, as Carlo does. Carlo plays his games to win, and we enjoy playing the game. Like, that's actually the weird thing, is that I don't play the game to have fun. I play the game, and I know that I will enjoy it before I play the game. It's a given that I will enjoy the game, unless my opponent's a complete arsehole or something like that. Different case. I know I'm going to enjoy it. I don't play because I enjoy it. I play because I want to win that game. I know I'm going to enjoy it before I play. And Carlo's the same, right? He enjoys the game, and he plays it because he wants to play a game to win it, try and win that game. He knows he's going to enjoy it before he plays. Peter, you're probably the same. You probably enjoy every single game of A Song of Ice and Fire you play because you like the game.
No, actually, I disagree. We had like this argument with the most non-competitive player here. I mean, Bloodraven, and we had a very different view on the game, because like we were discussing basically like we were discussing this thing that the most effective play, like one of the most effective lists for Lannisters is the basically like denial damage prevention list, and that basically like this first change that we discussed today is what was it again? That you shouldn't camp with the commanders anymore will probably prevent it. And then basically like this is like for me like this like super denial style of play where you don't kill a single unit is a bad thing. For Camille, it's not, because he sees a game as a puzzle basically that he needs to solve. Like I disagree. I disagree a lot with that. I mean, I agree to disagree. So totally, like, it's not that I'm saying he's wrong and I'm right. But my point is, I play this game because it's Son of Ice and Fire, and I expect stuff to be killed during it. And the most enjoyable games for me is when, like, for instance, the last game is when we both killed, I think, 3 or 4 units each from both sides, and that's most of the fun. So, I mean, I think there is kind of a balance to be found between coming there. I mean, I do play competitively, so sometimes I get disconnected to the thing, but at the same time, I want to have this kind of feeling of the theme. And I think if you think about it more in the terms that you always play, your main goal is to win, you kind of lose that stuff. And I think just there are, in a way, it's sad for me. I feel it myself that the more competitive I get, the less I'm getting invested in the theme, and the more I think about the stats. So I want to enjoy the theme of the game, and I feel like competitiveness sometimes stand between me and that.
The thing is, I would say, and this is where they are mutually exclusive. Competitiveness comes from enjoying the game, and enjoying the lore and the theme is a separate thing, right? The two are very different. I love the lore, and one of the biggest things that me and Carlo wish would happen in the game, right? We've talked about this time and time again. We would fucking love to see wicked attachments and cool names from the TV show, from the books. You know, I want to see Barriss and Selmy in a Targaryen list on the field. I want to see Barriss and Selmy fighting for the Kingsguard. I want to see Tormund running around and, you know, my free folk heroes of old. I want to see the Great John leading some berserkers in a Rob army.
Mickey,
yeah? Go on.
Mickey, and you know, this, that's what you want. It's one feature away to Carlo to implement for this to happen.
Well,
full army Elo.
The thing is, though, is that, you know, what I want is not what the game is, right? And that's what me and Carlo have said for many, many moons. We've always said, look at Greyjoy. Greyjoy have got actually pretty damn good balance right now, because people take attachments that are named. You can run your named characters in a competitive environment, and you get somewhere with it, right? I want to run cool attachments. I really do. I want to run named characters. The difference is I understand the impact of doing that, right? There is absolutely nothing, I mean, to Howard as an example, nothing stopping people running attachments, right? There is nothing with people not trying to get high activations. There is absolutely nothing stopping people playing the game they want to play. Not at all. Problem is that the game somebody wants isn't necessarily what the competitive side of a game offers. Because that's where things are taken to extreme. That's where the meta, the word meta literally comes from. Most efficient tactics available, right? It's the idea of this is the pretty much most effective strategies that work. It doesn't mean that it fits the theme. It doesn't mean that it works with everything that we want. I really don't want high activations to be the way to make every list. Because it means when I try and build a Stark or Baratheon list, I'm fucking sad. Do I know that it's the most effective thing to do, and thus I do it anyway? Yes. Because I know I enjoy the game enough that it doesn't matter that I'm missing out on those characters, because I still enjoy the game. But it still makes me sad that I don't get to run those 2-point Great John attachments and go around smashing people over the head. Okay?
Because it'd make you more sad if you did run Great John and then he didn't smash people over the head, because that's what he does.
Yeah.
Like, it's more sad What actually the problem is that your lore perception of what a character should be able to do does not meet their actual ability in the game.
Yep.
You've got this amazing, powerful character, and whenever you play him, he's shit and he dies and he loses. That's the actual problem, right? What's great about Greyjoys is the best way to play is to play with all the cool characters. And that's cool.
Shit. And they
they're
might
not
die,
shit, and they do
something.
win.
Yeah.
Right? But I just I think it's a really weird discussion. You know, like the game is different things to different people, and this idea that you know there were I think it was Howard particularly was saying like the game's sold in this concept that it's a war game that like can also do some other things. Well, to me, it's sold as the only war game that has politics in. So why are you trying to minimize the politics part? Because that's the bit that I like the most. That's the reason why I play this and not other games, right? I play this because of the tactics board. So why are you trying to minimize it? Why are you saying that it's lore unfriendly, that battles are won and lost on the tactics board and in the tactics cards rather than won and lost on the ability of the soldiers on the battlefield? Because if you want to be lore friendly, the two things that won battles are behind the scenes politics and literal number of people on the battlefield. That were the things that won battles.
The vast
Nobody
majority
gave
of the
a fuck
time.
about whether or not XYZ character was there. Nobody gave a fuck about whether or not you had some super elite dudes, because they don't win battles in the lore. They're just silly little stories that get made about people who happen to win battles. They're won by the tactics board, they're won by the whatever. And that's my opinion. Yours can be different. Yours can be that I think that lore-wise, when the Kingsguard take to the battlefield, they should be unbeatable. They should be a 20-point unit that can't die practically, and that dragons should be a 40-point unit by themselves. And
lore-wise, Kingsguard. Lore-wise, Kingsguard should never make it to battlefield.
Exactly.
But neither should the Red Cloaks and Lannisport City Watch.
So we can discuss what we each think that lore implementation of the game should be, but really the only thing that you can talk about is we want cool characters to be good, so that when we put them on the field, they do good stuff. Not just we want to put them on the field because we want to put them on the field. We want, when they go on the field, for them to actually feel like the cool characters from the book, and therefore you need to make them worthy of that. You need to give them abilities, and I do agree. I forget who said it now, but I'd be happy for them to get rid of every single generic character. Like generic. I don't want generic attachments.
Yeah, you could do that. 100%. I'll leave this whole conversation.
And you can use scalps just for fun.
Yes. I will leave this whole conversation from a quote from the books of all things, right? Not direct quote because I don't have it up. But Rob and his whole like victory to March, and this is what has always encapsulated me. And it's never been sold as a war game to me, by the way, ever. No one's ever said to me it's a war game. They've always said it's a miniatures game. I remember the quote from the book with Rob. I'm winning all the battles, but I'm losing the war. Right? And that is literally what Game of Thrones is about. It's not actually about the fighting. It's about how do you win a given war game mode. And what's your strategy to victory? And sometimes that means killing shit. Sometimes it means winning the battle. It doesn't always mean. So we'll leave it there anyway.
Soon it'll be more about killing stuff because it'll be less about controlling victory points.
Soon TM. So we will go back and we will finish the discussion.
Can we actually just for 1 second? Soon. When do we think is soon, by the way? I don't personally, I don't think it's out in time for the Scottish GT on the 22nd of January or LVO on the 29th of January.
No, probably not. It might be out in time for LVO, as in like
What
the
is
day
LVO?
before.
Literally the last
Oh, Las
weekend of
Vegas.
January. Yeah.
It might be out the day before. It's not going to be out in time for people to actually make lists for it, right?
I think it was very interesting that they basically mentioned LVO plus Adepticon plus something else as like happening soon early in the year, and then also talked about the fact that they were going to bring out the balance patch, even though it's ready, right? They say, oh, it's ready, but we're going to bring it out in January so that it doesn't conflict with these December releases. Sorry, what December releases? Anyway, so it's going to come out in January so it doesn't conflict with these December releases, being completely oblivious to the fact that they are almost definitely going to absolutely fuck over LVO by dropping the changes directly before it, which is a huge problem for any big event.
Tara's saying there that LVO using the rule whatever on the 1st of January, which makes sense. You know, just rules are out on the 1st of January.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can really, really imagine they half mentioned that they might turn up to LVO. Like, I can really imagine them dropping like the releases like 1 week before, turning up to LVO and being like, why aren't you using them? And people having to explain to them like, you understand that you can't make rule changes days before an event and expect everybody to use them.
Howard's right.
Carlo, how will you handle it on stats then?
I don't know, Peter. I don't know how I'm going to handle the next day.
Imagine imagine a big event want to run on stats, and then they made a decision it's 1.7, and the week before they change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell you this: I'll be in COVID willing. I'll be in the US the week of LVO, so it ain't changing that week. That's for sure. Like, I don't know. I will speak to major event organizers if it happens very close to them.
Anyway, I was going to say I really like Howard's comment there. Based on the history, he would guess at the end of February, beginning of March, which I was willing to go, yeah, I can believe that. That sounds about right. And then Paul Aiden absolutely ballpark knocked it out of. Based on history, I would guess end of February, beginning of March 2023. Just a quick reminder, Carlo, you live in the UK. You got those 2021 faction packs available in your local stores?
No.
How many days is it till the end of the year?
10? 11?
11.
Oh, so 11? Cool.
Good. I'm very glad that we are 11 days away from 2021 ending, and the cards with 2021 printed on them are not here yet. I'm not going to blame anyone. I'm not going to get into that whole discussion, but that is awkward.
Do you have them in Poland, Peter? No?
He's muted.
Oh.
Accidental mute.
Peter's on mute. I assume not in the store. I mean, obviously I have the cards, but yeah, not in actual shops.
As far as I'm aware. I don't know if they're out in Poland or not. No doubt Peter.
No, they are. We had them from Singapore.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
I saw Bloodraven using them there in Poland.
Russia.
Technically.
Russia. All right then. Let's go back because there were some more things released. I was going to say they obviously did announce and kind of like talk about tournaments a little bit, which was really good. They bigged up the US ones, which kind of felt a little bit one-sided. But it was
A
good.
little bit, a little bit of fuck you to Europe,
Yeah.
which continues to be the far more active region with far more players.
But I'll be fair to them. They did shout tournaments, which is a good start. Obviously LVO, and then the various different other ones that are going to be in the US. So yeah, that was a good thing, I guess. But there were also this as well, which was a bunch of sculpts. And we haven't talked about this. And these are generally positive, and of course a confirmation, starting with the Stark side of things. Karstark Spearmen, 2 units of Stark Sworn Swords, and a unit of Umber Berserkers in the starter box. Same heroes as before, we kind of knew that.
Who would have guessed?
Who would have guessed? Oh wait, everybody. Right, cool. These are the same as the Karstark box. Nothing really to say. Cool. Yeah. Right. Let's move on. The Umber Berserkers. I know you're not a massive Stark fan, Carlo. They're not really your thing. But the sculpts are lovely, right?
These Berserkers I don't like any more than the current Berserkers. They're not bad, but like they're just more of the same. For me.
Peter, any thoughts on these sculpts?
I mean, a bit more dynamic. They had only one guy who's like this. It's not visible on the camera, but I mean, who doesn't? I mean, they said it during the stream. It's always good. I guess the positive thing is that you can field now a unit like legitimately with all different poses.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, which is nice. Dan will be having a field day because it means less conversion.
And not almost. I guess if you have Kickstarter exclusives and the attachments box, then it will be all different poses, I guess. So,
yeah,
good thing.
Yeah, more of the same. They'll merge in with the current unit really well, I think. Yeah, fine, but I'm not blown away.
It wouldn't be a classic Tourney ground if we didn't point out errors or have a little go at CMON or all these classic things. I do find this picture.
Not yet.
Yeah. Oh, whoa. Hang on. You've got to do a bit of production value stuff, right? These pictures have obviously been cropped on the far side to take away the photos that their heads were because we're not analysing their faces. But do you find it funny that in cropping their own image, they've actually chopped the top of the Stark banner off accidentally, so you can't see the full thing? We have no idea what's at the top of the Stark banner. It could be a wolf's head. We don't know. Or a bear head. That could be an amazing banner. Ruined. Anyway, moving on. The Stark Sworn Sword new sculpt. I am glad these Stark Sworn Sword sculpts are coming out because the Stark Sworn Swords are all a little bit classic fantasy foot soldier. These guys are
These are a huge improvement from the worst potato sculpts in the game, in my opinion. Potato face, boring, generic positioning, to relatively dynamic, good faces, good stuff. I still don't like them that much. Like, I actually don't like just like the Norman helmet aesthetic thing, wooden shield. Like, they're good. They're a huge improvement. I still don't like the unit.
fair enough. Peter?
And on the other side, the banner is now flowing to the back because there are more factions than just 2. The other thing, which I think is positive, is now if you're playing Ethered, you will have like a distinctive. They are in capes, so they will. It will make more sense to use them as Ethered honor guards, and so I think it's all good.
Yeah, that was always. I really liked the idea
My biggest disappointment that thus far is that we get a box of Karstarks and the box of Brigand, because I already got both of them. So I hope their stats will change in 1.8. to the best?
We will see. I like these. I mean, one of the big things I was saying there that I've always liked about this game was the hobby aspect side of certain units, right, and the bases and things that people produce. But the hobby aspect side of Eddard's Honor Guard was always you could take the Stark Sworn Swords and make your own Eddard's Honor Guard, but it was also like a negative in that the same way it follows a Bone and the Bone Lord's Chosen, in that it's actually quite hard to make them unique outside of a different paint job. So I'm glad they've offered us different sculpts. It gives you the option to kind of make a unique unit on your own a little bit more. Of course, with the painting involved as well. We see the heroes as well. The Rob sculpt is...
okay. Actually, the negative. Let me be a bit negative. So the part that I don't like is that this kind of like fantasy over exaggeration of the like opening up with a shield. So you can from that perspective, like my favorite model is Bron, the Kickstarter exclusive, because he does this perfect like bringing up the shield in the front and hitting with the sword at the same time, and that was great. And if you look at the new Thorn swords and the new Rob, they're complete opposites. So for the same reason, I actually prefer the Rob Kickstarter exclusive, because he got this like very nice guard. I think what I really loved like initially in the initial releases is that they were more kind of like realistic style, like medieval, trying to be there, and the more it go, the more like fantasy-ish it got. Mm-hmm. So here I could see like they went like full throttle on basically like disregarding realism. So this is my...
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's the same step that the likes of Games Workshop have taken, and it has done a lot of positive things for Games Workshop, to put it bluntly. I'm not saying that Games Workshop are a good idea to follow, but let's say they do have the biggest revenue and they are the biggest miniatures game out there. So going a step further into the fantasy, it's probably going to do them a lot of favors, and I think the overwhelming response to these sculpts is they look amazing. But Sunday, Chris in chat really nails it. Enough to want to buy these starter sets on their own if you already have the stuff? Probably not. If you've already got the contents of these boxes, you're probably not buying them unless you're really in it for the hobby and you want the extra sculpts and you're just being a completionist. New players, these are brilliant, of course. You no longer have to buy the double starter. Makes a big difference. Mm-hmm. But actually, the beauty of a new player...
and I lost my terrain on the event. Some of the pieces, so...
Yeah. The beauty of these... another
D3.
The beauty of the old starters was the fact that you buy one box and you get enough to play a full game. And I don't just mean your full game. Both players have an army. The two-player starter set was a very good initiation game. It's how Carlo got into the game with the Kickstarters and the two-player starter set. It's how basically our entire club started playing. And it wasn't until later factions came out that more of us bought in because we didn't like to double up on factions early on. Yeah, I mean, they're great. Honestly, they're great, but I just don't see how many new or old players are going to buy them. I think they're just predominantly new. Moving on, though.
I like the Wolf. I think Greywind is a huge step up from the previous Greywind. Previous Greywinds are very disappointing direwolf, to be honest. And overall, the characters are sort of what sell it. But yeah, I agree with Chris. Like, I'm not running out to buy this box.
Howard says
you're just slowly walking in and walking out with a box.
Surreptitiously.
Howard says, are they going to stop selling the two-player starter? We don't actually know, but probably.
I would say they probably are, so that they don't have to repack the new rulebook and the new cards in them.
Yeah, and they also don't have to worry about stops.
Actually, I'd be interested to see like the free folk starter, especially if they replace giants with something. I think that would be an awesome deal because you do need like 4 units of raiders.
Oh yeah, if they redo
at least.
If they redo some of the other starters, I'd probably buy them. Certainly free folk because I love free folk. I do want to collect all the free folk stuff. But
I think for free folk, there was like almost a spoiler on this image. Like with 3 starters, it was like Stark, Lannister, and free folk.
Maybe we haven't heard anything, so I'll wait. I'll wait until we hear anything from that.
Sure.
Lannisters then, the Clegane Brigands, first of all, who cares? These sculpts are relatively new anyway. These guys have been out. They're not this different. But they appear in the starter set. I mean, we did talk about it, and we did think it might be true, and it did come true. Good. It does mean Mountains Men aren't in the starter set.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Interesting, actually, that the Stark lost their cavalry, and the Lannisters gained cavalry, and the Starks gained one of the most defensive units in the entire game. Kind of a little bit of a story about the arc that Starks themselves have gone on from being one of the most aggressive cavalry, fast maneuvering factions in the game to now being one of the slowest, most infantry-based defensive control factions in the game. So just a little analogy for you there in terms of what they lost and gained.
Yeah, definitely interesting. The Clegane Butchers we've seen, and Brigands even. God, get the name because I never see them. The Clegane Brigands, yeah, fine, whatever. Sculpts, we've seen them before. The new Halberdiers.
Very nice.
Love like the old ones. Love the old ones, but enjoy the new ones.
Yeah, I love the old ones, and I love these two.
Hope in 1.8 they will get more use to justify at least 1 unit. I mean, it's kind of weird. They're not bad, huh?
Yeah.
Go on.
They're not bad, but they're not great. I'm with Chris very much on this one, Sunny Slaughter, in terms of like, I like this whole box. It's not enough to make me want to buy it.
Yeah. Complete agreement. The Halberdiers are really nice.
I mean, Carlo, it's okay. You're at denial stage. We got it. You have a couple more months.
No, see, so this, I mean, like, it's partly my own, it's partly my own situation in terms of like where I'm at with my collection and my painting amount and stuff like that. But I have these units painted. If I did buy this box, they would go very much to the back of the painting queue, because to paint them doesn't add a new army, a new unit to my army at all. All it does is replace old models, which I already have. And so the reality of me painting these is almost non-existent, because, I have full multiple armies to paint before I would get to them. So then, just for me personally right now, it adds nothing, and I will literally never field them. No matter how much the fact that they are better, I'm not going to field them. And I'm not going to buy the box for like Cersei and Jaime as like the only 2 models in that box that I think are worth. I already have them painted, but I would paint a new one. That's how much more I like it. Everything else, I'm like, yes, it's better, but I'm not going to go out and paint this just because it's a tiny bit better. I'm happy with the one I have. I'm happy with how I've painted it. I'll just keep using it.
Yeah.
Of course, because you're not a collectionist at all, and you never buy the new models, the new toys before you paint the old ones.
That's a bit of a call out. How many? Just remind me, Carlo. How many unopened boxes do you have in the cupboard now? It's gone down a bit, hasn't it? Or did you? Is it gone up?
Well, I haven't opened any in quite a while. I forget. I think it's 40 unopened units.
There you go. Just leave that one there. Anyway, we'll move on to the guardsmen. These guardsmen are way better in the sculpts, right? The armor is just infinitely better. I actually think that they're... It's going to sound crazy. I think they're too good.
They're too dynamic.
Yeah. Like, they don't feel like rank and file troops who are going to do the job, but run away if it gets too hairy. They feel like kind of like hardened veterans. Let's fucking go. Yeah. I don't know. They look as dynamic, if not more dynamic, than the berserkers do, right? And I feel like that's a bit of a disservice to the berserker units. Yeah, I don't know. They are nice.
They're okay. Yeah, they're better than the current.
I think they're good. I painted one unit of guardsmen. I will gladly paint the new sculpts.
That's fair. I mean, they do look like
eventually, at some point.
I painted 2 units of guardsmen, and I never field any units of guardsmen, and I don't think I intend to paint any more right now.
Classic.
Just start playing Roose Bolton.
Lastly, there is a sculpt here I'm disappointed in. I'm just going to straight up say it. The Tyrion sculpt, his face might be slightly better, but I really don't feel that his sculpt is a step up significantly from the one he had. That might just be because he's a small and you don't notice the improvement. It might just be the image that we see here. But I don't
He's
look
got a book now.
Yeah, he's got a book now, I guess. I just don't know.
I just think the old one was good.
Yeah.
And there's not loads you can do. So I think they've done well to improve him. But again, it's only marginal. I didn't include him in terms of like, this is units that I would repaint. I'm gonna set everybody against me again as usual. I do not like this Gregor. I think that pose is weird. Jaime and Cersei are the 2 models from that entire box that I would repaint just to have those models as significant improvements over the current versions.
I mean, that Cersei is sexy. I'm not gonna lie.
I'd say I enjoy the I enjoy the old Jaime. I'm a little bit tired of the heroic poses, and looks like this Jaime is holding the sword a little bit weird. I mean, flat for some reason, like he's knighting somebody. For Tyrion, yeah, instead of book, I would prefer that he would hold Shay. That would be interesting. And imagine she will be like 2 heads taller than him. That would be fun. Like the new MCU version. Gregor. Thank you, but no thanks. Cersei is good. I really like how they put the furniture that they put there that allowed them to have a more interesting pose. Mm-hmm. It's not exceptional. I mean, I would consider painting her because I think it would be quite an easy model to paint.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the banister, railing, or like a banister, or like something on the edge of like a balcony or something. I tell you what, I wish they'd done with Gregor, which I feel like wasn't that different to the sculpt, and maybe I'm a heathen when I say this, but if Gregor was wielding that great sword in one hand, like behind himself, and his shield out in front, like, look, I'm this fucking strong. I can hold a shield at almost arm's length in front of me to block your attack, while I swing a greatsword with one arm over the top of this massive fucking shield, crush you in half. If that was his pose, which is not actually significantly different from where he stood at the moment, it would have been perhaps, okay, it's heroic, but it would have been one of the most amazing poses in the whole range. And you'd have been, that guy is fucking scary. Whereas at the moment, he's like the video, like, and Soren's right, it's like a video game character who you've got on the loading screen. You've just picked him and you're waiting for load, and he's like, ah, yes, I'm Gregor, nice to meet you. And it's like, what the fuck is that about? I want the guy who's going to do, like, cleave two people in twain.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't he like copy pasted from For Honor?
Could well be. He actually could well be.
He really does. Yeah, For Honor. I mean, For Honor all look like they're twice as big as... Something about them makes... They're twice as big as they should be, even though they're all as big as each other. They all still look twice as big as they should be.
The big guys are far too big. They're made fat to distinguish them.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. The sculpts are all spot on. But yeah.
So... I was just about to say something stupid, which was if these came out in a new Heroes box, but they don't. They only come in the starter box. I was about to say, if they came out in a new Heroes box, I would buy them and I'd repaint the models that I have. But I'm not buying a whole starter set because I just don't want or need the other units. You know, I already have Clegane Brigands. I already have painted guards, painted halberdiers, 2 units of both, and they both barely see the table. I've got way too much stuff to be interested in doing new sculpts of stuff that I already have.
Yeah, definitely. I've got far too much stuff as well that I can't buy anything more.
Your first army.
Still unpainted. But yeah. Cool. That was it. I mean, that was 2 hours in.
Was there anything else?
No, that was it.
That was literally all they showed, right?
Yeah, it was all the stuff they showed. And they did answer some. They answered some questions after that, and they are. I mean, Peter said how often do they play, and they said like all the time. I'm not going to recount all the questions. No offense to anyone who asked a question. They're not actually that interesting, and that's no offense to you, Peter. As in, the questions themselves might be really interesting, but the answers aren't. So if you want to go see the question,
well, I would say no. I don't take any offense. It's just that like I really what is it? I mean, it was noticeable from the first time what kind of questions they're picking. So that's why I asked 2 questions. One which was I knew that they will never answer, and the other which was like a hidden like troll question that they thought is innocent enough.
Yeah, which is fair enough.
That was my hidden agenda. And this is rather sad. Like of all the things they picked up like this question from why Boltons are not a faction and laughed about it when like people were asking when will you fix like Mother on Dragons and Nightwatch, please.
Well, I mean, we here will know exactly why they'll never answer those questions, and it's because they won't. You know, and obviously from a marketing perspective, they will never talk about negative things directly. The fact they even, you know, in the last stream, not this one, but the last one they did, they even mentioned the fact that they made mistakes and almost referred to them as mistakes was actually impressive. And a very grown-up thing to do as well in terms of modern marketing era.
Yeah.
They don't do it
often.
I
would be super, like... I would be super, super interested to listen to them have a really open discussion about the game. It feels it wasn't because it was a one-man podcast, you know, like it felt a bit like Chanel's old podcast kind of did that in some ways, you know, it was a little bit contrived, but it was just Chanel sitting down, giving his thoughts about things and like his intent on certain aspects of the game and what and that's very interesting and very important to me, at least. But I'm very much uninterested in myself in their very controlled, contrived interview style of community discussion, because the questions are already very, very heavily vetted, and then they give incredibly cagey answers around that. They're not willing or able, whichever it is, like maybe it's able to just openly discuss aspects of their plans, their hopes, what they're trying to achieve. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's unfortunate. Like, obviously, like Tourney ground.
Yeah, I don't see why.
Yeah,
I,
yeah. Tourney ground and A Song of Ice and Fire stats, the site and stuff like that. Then they're not, when they're not the same thing, right? But personally, come rain or shine, come good or bad, I like and want to feel like I can just sit here and say, like, this is what I'm trying to achieve with ELO rankings or ELO tournaments, or this bit of the site, like, and then we can discuss and people can say, like, oh no, that doesn't actually like work like that. I don't like use it, or like, oh no, like the rankings actually scare me. They don't make me want to play more. And I try to have it in an open discussion, not hide it. And obviously they're very, very different beasts. You know what I mean? Like, we talk it every week. You choose to come here. It's not a product that I'm selling you or anything like that. I don't work for somebody else, blah, 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 blah. But I feel that they're so contained. I want more open discussion about the future of the game, plans for the game. Like, how could it not just be an open discussion about, like, yeah, so we're working on Martells? Do you know, like, how is that not a thing? And then they could just be like, oh, the things that we're really interested in Martells is XYZ. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is the things with, oh, there's really cool characters. Oh, we're trying to implement like their
I can.
deserty poison.
I mean,
Go on, Peter.
I would say for that one, for not spoiling stuff, like there could be a minor reason, like at least sometime. I don't think it's applicable here, though. Like in video games, the argument that is usually made is that you have like a marketing campaign, and you don't want it to be drawn forever. You want it to hit. But here, I don't see the billboards with Martells are coming, like on the streets, or them like buying any advertisement. So here, I would say it's unasked for. But I think this is kind of like the generic attitude in certain areas where you make a product that you don't want to spoil the stuff before it's time to have this like marketing impact. I'm not. I'm okay with them with not revealing Martells before. What I'm not okay with is having like kinda this old style, or in my opinion, kinda juvenile-ish, or vice versa. Boomers attitude towards like never admitting you do something wrong.
I will pick you up on the side of the sales side of it, right? Because there's a very important thing here.
Yeah.
They certainly open themselves up with keeping things secret, to open themselves up to create marketing campaigns and hype campaigns, right? I'm thinking, I have to teach this stuff, right? I have to teach how people can build hype and market things properly. And a classic one we could go back to is something like the Call of Duty example, where they deliberately left Easter eggs that people could find and things that people could do within the game of Call of Duty Warzone. And then as the game went on, the patches, obviously it's different because a computer game is different. They can roll out small Easter eggs with those patches and things that happen and interact within the game. And then there is the patch is coming on this date, and there's a countdown. And every single day in the countdown, something's happening from a marketing strategy. They did it a little bit with the Kickstarters and the announcement of MCU a little bit. Sorry, the whatever it is, Marvel United. They did it a bit with that, but for Song of Ice and Fire, like, they're not doing that marketing campaign. They said mammoths are coming when mammoths were coming, and they didn't actually market the mammoths. They just said mammoths are coming, and they announced them on a stream once. Those things don't actually generate hype. Like, we know, and this is the annoying thing, we quite literally know that Martells are coming. They have basically said as such. But now we just don't know when, and we don't know how. But we basically know that Martells are coming. It's not
how.
going to be...
Well, Russia.
Yeah, Russia. It's not going to be a surprise. It's not going to be a surprise when Martells drop and we're like, whoa, Martells, where the fuck have these come from? It's like, oh, right, they finally released them, hey. In the same way that because we know that their marketing budget isn't strong or isn't well formatted around A Song of Ice and Fire, they've lost control of their own marketing. We spoke about this before, to other companies. To smaller companies just being like, oh, we've got this product coming in, here's a name, and people go, oh, look, there's a name. Follow the thread, here's some pictures. We've seen a picture of something that CMON's never announced. Black Tide Trojan, classic example. They don't control their own marketing anymore. So don't try and market. You know, as Carlo says, be candid and be like, yeah, we're working on Martells, we've got these characters come in, we don't know how we're going to make them work, it's going to be really interesting, we'll see how it comes up, got some cool sculpts that we can't quite show you yet, but wait for them in the next one, immediate build hype for your next one, engagement with users. Like, this is exactly the elementary building blocks that I have to teach people, and I just think they're losing it. I have no reason to want to watch a live stream they produce, because I actually don't believe I'm going to see much that I don't already kind of know. Now, okay, I'm very involved. I look at the news, things like that. Kind of our job here. But my point is they're not offering something that
You're
is
also very
interesting.
jaded.
Oh, we're also jaded. That doesn't help. They just don't offer something.
Yeah, and I mean the whole... and the whole like idea that we learn of from the stuff, not even from the leaks, but from just people merely unpacking the boxes.
Yeah. That's a thing. That's a thing too. Oh dear. So that's it, right? That's it. That's everything we're going to talk about regarding that whole matter. Don't get me wrong. Like, obviously, we still love the game. We wouldn't be so passionate if we didn't love the game. But it's things like the CMON live stream. We want to be amazing. We want to be really good. We want, you know, we don't. It's not that we don't want Michael and Fabio to talk to, but we wish they would do so in a way that was conductive for us to then be excited. And sometimes they get it right. Sometimes they get it wrong. Like the spoiler at the end of the pictures actually was one of the most exciting things they'd ever done, because it's like, look, here's a bunch of pictures of units that we're not allowed to name or whatever it might be, but look, here you go, have a look at some of the cool sculpts that we've got going. That was interesting, at least, because it was information that people could speculate on. I don't know, maybe we change our tune every time. Anyway, tournaments. It is gone over 2 hours. There have been a lot of tournament winners in the last week. I'm just going to very quickly run through them and give them the congratulations that they so rightly deserve for winning events in their local areas. We are starting with, I believe this one was last week. I want to say it's Gratka and above, isn't it? I think.
Maybe.
I think Trash Panabats was last week. Yep. So yeah, Gratka for winning an event in Poland, I'm guessing, with his Targaryens. Well done. Bloodraven, he knows he's okay with his Lannisters. ELO tournament, Bloodraven. I know people lose to Bloodraven in person, but I wouldn't know. I've never lost to him in person. Anyway, Losberg with Fabricators Forge ELO event. He is a very strong Baratheon player. I know that Datalink in chat, he often plays against Losberg, and he is one of, I think he's in the top 10, might be top 10, certainly in the top 20 players, and he plays pretty much exclusively with Baratheons, and actually dominates the local scene in the Fabricators Forge area with his Baratheons. So kudos to Losberg there. Obviously, he'll keep going up if things continue.
Anybody in chat know if he's going to LVO? If he's in chat, if he watches the video, let us know if you go on LVO. I'd be super Happy to see if he ends up.
I'm sure Datalink will know and play against him and probably let us know. Hopefully in the future. Woj Shah, who is a name I can never remember. Wojciech, isn't it? I believe. Wojciech. He won another event. It's not the first one he's won, but he won an event with his Night's Watch, again in Poland. We had a Frenzai, who is not a name I've heard before, but an ELO event in the House of Orcs. That's one of the Italian events with Frenzai. So that's good that we have a different winner there. House of Orcs have been putting on some really good events.
Neutral ELO winner.
ELO winner, and more importantly,
so neutrals are a faction.
Maybe.
As for improvements, by the way, there is just a small improvement which was requested by one of the newest Patreons, which is you can export. If you clicked Builder, it would just send that list into the Builder for you right now, and you could edit it. There you go. You can save it. You can edit it. You can do whatever. You can have that list. Or you can click TTS, and it will give you the link to go and... it will give you the link to go and export that to TTS so that you don't have to go into your saved files, blah, 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 blah. But there you go. Another small improvement.
Yep. That's available on all lists now as well, not just this one as well. But anytime you see a list in the builder, be it looking up someone else's lists in another event or whatever, not just from the Hall of Fame. And I just want to take a special moment. You can't see it in chat, guys. I'm awfully sorry because of my Zoom and Peter's hiding the Zoom. So I'm going to just quickly shift Peter to the other side of the screen. There we go. Take that. Because ORJ Bill with his Starks won an event in Rinter's Wrath. He's back. The boy is back.
Did he ever leave?
He's a long-time neutral player, but he's taken... I think he did play Starks, obviously, as well. And he's taken Starks to a win in Rinter's Wrath. Massive congratulations to RJ Bill. And it's lovely to see him back on the scene. And apart from that... Oh, Jareen, the 40-point Winter is Here event, which I believe... Yes, that was the Tacoma event in Wyoming, right? Tacoma's in Wyoming? I think it's Wyoming. Here's my... Oh, Washington. Tacoma, Washington. So well done for Jareen there. Those are all our tournament winners. We will obviously post and give a shout out to all those various players throughout. I would say well done to Elite Teddy for winning the Steadfast ELO League, but for some reason that's still at the top because I think the end date has changed.
Yeah.
But he won last week, so sod Elite Teddy. No one cares about Elite Teddy anyway. He's not a nice person, and we don't like him here. That's why he's never on any episodes of Tourney Ground. You don't know who Elite Teddy is, go and check out from 2 weeks ago when he was here on Tourney Ground. Completely devoiding the last thing I just said. Congratulations to all the winners. Commiserations to the people who didn't make tournament wins. Peter. As has become standard.
That felt personal.
Mickey.
Oh yeah, I still have
Mickey and Peter should be good friends. Always the second place.
I mean, yeah. Clearly, I need to enter more events. That's what I need to do. All right, and yeah, obviously all the ongoing events.
How many second place did you take, Mickey?
Actually, technically, I think only one
Not
second
very many.
place. Because every other time I win all my games and lose the final and get submarined and drop to like 5th or 4th or 3rd. True story. Sad days. I'm not good in final games. That's what I'm not good at. Yeah.
Or you're not good in secondary and tertiary points.
Well, I don't play Night's Watch, so tertiary points are out the window. It's massive kudos to everyone playing, obviously. We are going to be gone for a week. Carlo's away next week, and I don't fancy doing it alone on the day after Christmas. I don't even think I might not even be at home. We'll see. So we're going to have a break for a week, and I will be back on the 4th, I think it is. No, 3rd. I'll be back on Monday the 3rd of January. with or without Carlo, because I need something to do with my life, and who cares about Carlo? He's got nothing important to say. But yeah, any closing thoughts from you guys? Any closing thoughts from you guys? Peter, do you want to start us off?
Play games, have fun.
Play games.
I mean, looking forward to and have fun at the way that you want to have it. Looking forward to the 1.8 changes. Meager hope they drop.
Who knows?
Meager point they drop before January 8th, so I don't have to return my ticket to Always Winter.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I really hope to see you there.
It would be good. Carlo, any closing thoughts from you before I run down all the events going on and then obviously send us out?
No, it's great. It's great to see. It's great to see Tom Bell in the chat. Hello, Hilo. It's been a while since I've seen you, mate.
We were talking about you on Friday. I didn't even notice.
Yep.
Not
there
bad
we
things.
go. All good things. No, I think. I mean, it's coming to the end of the year. It's coming to the end of 2021. I'd just say I think it's been a really great year. Oh, we always chat shit, look at the wrong side of things, look at the bad end of things, say what we think can be better because we always want things to be better. But I think it's been a really, really strong year for the site specifically. But I think for the game in general, I think that there have been a lot of tournaments coming out of the deepest lockdown restrictions. I don't know where various countries are at and what's going to happen in the early 2022. I know that there's a real chance that Always Winter could have COVID problems. LVO itself could have COVID problems. But we're coming into what has been like possibly the first big year since COVID came along. It could well be the biggest year in A Song of Ice and Fire's history. I really hope it will be. I really hope that they'll get a very coordinated, competitive, organized play kind of scene together, set of things going. I'd love that to happen.
Isn't the Game of Thrones sequel coming?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that will hopefully bring a whole new set of hype and players.
That should help.
Yeah.
Loads of growth. I think that the game continues to grow. I see new people trickle in, and if the card packs can actually come out, I think that there could be a really good time for the game. I think the game could grow really well. And if not, then we just have to keep hold of the players that we have. The community's good where we stand right now, and if people stay active, keep enjoying the game and keep playing the game, then new people will come. And I just think that it's been a great year in general, and next year could be bigger and better, and that's what I hope.
Yep, I'm in complete agreement. I will say that I think sometimes people think we're quite negative. And we look at the game negatively, but as Carlo was saying, we look at it, we try and think of it as a way what we want the game, perhaps, and what we want from the game, because we really do think that this is. Me and Carlo have quite a lot of experience of different war games through, admittedly, shortish careers. We're not particularly old, but we have been playing war games for the majority of our lives, and this is one of the best games that either of us have ever played. So it would be great to see that continue. A quick shout out to Ariakas, Clarence. The Great Canadian Open starts on January the 2nd, the day before Tourney Ground returns. Sign up if you want and you're in Canada. I don't know what the full sits are. I think it's a TTS event he's running.
It is TTS, yeah. They want to run a big, regular, in-person Canadian tournament, but they're unable to do so right now. So they're running kind of the tournament that they want to run, but on TTS.
Yep. So if you're Canadian and you're watching this, go sign up. If you're Tom Bell and you're still watching this, it was all good things, mate. We were saying about it's just a shame we hadn't seen you in a while, really. and it will be good to see you soon. And no doubt we'll see you at LVO. That's the hopeful plan. Yeah, other than that, guys, have a fantastic Christmas. I hope that everybody enjoys themselves, eats copious amounts of food, and just generally chills out. And, you know, anyone working in any of those sectors where they don't get the holidays, obviously kudos to you for working over that period as well. Very important for communities in which you exist. But more importantly, guys, I hope you all love the changes coming to A Song of Ice and Fire and what it means, and hopefully the game will thrive in 2023. I hope that everything turns out really well, and ultimately I really hope that Othel gets nerfed for 2023, the ultimate Christmas present everybody wants. So have a great holiday, guys, and we will see you on January.
Merry Christmas.
Take care.
Ready, aim, release! Anyone see my mammoth?